Hey, hello friends. Thank you for joining me today. I am happily in my studio, my upstairs studio. I'm a very rich artist. I have two studios in my home. It's funny how life happens, isn't it? Okay, so why do I have two very nice studios? Well, partly because I have a very generous wife. And we're theoretically supposed to be in the empty nest stage of our lives. So when we bought this house some 10, 11 years ago, she graciously went shopping and looked for a house that would have a downstairs studio, which I have. But in the last year, our daughter, her husband, and their four kids have moved in with us temporarily. And so downstairs is a hubbub. Four kids, 7, 5, 3, and 1. And so they own downstairs. So I have, now the reason I had an upstairs studio is because for years and years and years, I worked as an illustrator. So just, it's a mess right now, but just to give you some idea. So that over there is, this used to be my, it still is my airbrush desk, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 airbrushes there. This is a long story. It's piles and piles and piles of archives of artwork that I'm trying to get put into books. And then, okay, here's a quick tour. Sorry, this place is a complete disaster. Workspace, all kinds of tools, which is now children's drawing area. My light table, and all kinds of tools here. And then my other desk, I've never given you a tour of this place, you know, computers, printers, scanners, art supplies, etc. I like my studio. So this is my office. If I'm talking to my wife or somebody in the family, and I call one of these places my studio, and I call the other one, I call this one my office. But I then went and bought another little easel and modified it so that I can paint up here in more or less peace and quiet. So there you go. Hi, David. Yes, it is a mess. I'm partly embarrassed, but oh man, it's more of a mess since the kids moved in. Anyway, it is a mess. Thanks for noticing. Anyway, so today, I can't believe I just did that. Today I have 4 paintings. Oh, and I need to raise this thing up. Sorry, hang on. 4 paintings that are at various stages of completion, nearly completed. You know, 4 plein air paintings. Actually, this is the only one of the 4 right here that was not begun. That I didn't start outside. I started this one here in the studio, and it's almost finished. And I'm having some kind of strange trouble getting it to go up. There we go. Okay, I do want to be able to paint whenever possible. Paint standing up whenever possible. The energy flow is better when you're standing up whenever possible, and it's good, of course, till your feet get too sore, then you go back down. So here's one of the tricks I modified. Put these boards in here, put a bead of hot glue along here so I can stick that there. There we go. Several other little things I did to this easel. So let me show you the 4 paintings real quickly. This one is 99% done, at least I think it is, but a couple things I want to do with that. Then last week, some of you watched me, this one is 96% finished. This I painted on Plein Air, on location. You can go back and find me doing this. Just a few things. This roof never got finished. The farmer never got finished. And probably do a tiny bit, who knows, here and there. That one is nearly finished. Then, 2 nights ago, I was out painting this. And some of you watched me do this. I like this painting quite a bit. I've decided, since I've looked back at it, that I really need to finish the railroad track stuff more. So I'll bust out one of my photographs and not any great detail, but just a little tiny bit more finish down here. And then who knows what I might do up here. Don't know. It remains to be seen. And then yesterday morning, I was out and did this one. Again, fairly happy with it. But this is one of those paintings that I know is going to look better when I hit it with a glaze. Okay, so I've got 4 paintings. That's a good day's work. And I'm going to do them not chronological order necessarily, but I'm going to do them in order from most finished to least finished. Does that make sense? So I'm going to start with this one because it's closest to being all done. And I've already glazed this one time. Let me turn down my music just a little bit. Getting too much attention. That is to say, I do the painting typically, then a day or 2 days later, when I come back, I glaze the painting again. And you know what? I just realized I cannot use liquid on this painting. And I'm going to leave you guys just sitting here for a minute. I am so sorry. I need to run downstairs, and this is bad planning, but I need to run downstairs and get some Neo McGill. What do you want to look at while I'm running off? I guess that's it. Sorry about that. I promise I'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Da, 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 da. Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away. Going downstairs now. Back upstairs. As you can tell. Okay, there. Sorry about that. The wonders of live broadcasting. Okay, Neo McGill. Strange name. Absolutely crazy name. Whoever came up with that name needed some serious marketing advice. But they didn't ask me. So. Now, why do I need Neo McGill? The reason is because some of this painting, this one right here, I used a different medium. I experimented, and I used this. Instead of liquid, I used Archival Oils Flow Gel Medium. And turns out I didn't like it that much. It smelled even more than liquid smells. And it was decidedly slower drying than quite slow drying. So I can't put liquid fast dry on top of slow dry. By the way, let's just get one thing clear, shall we? Many of you have heard the expression fat over lean. You need to understand that that's old-fashioned language from your daddy's day. Fat over lean is confusing. No. The real saying that you ought to have in your head is not fat over lean. That's from back in the day when you made paintings fat, quote unquote, by adding linseed oil to them. Slow dry linseed oil. Nowadays, many of our mediums are not slow dry or fast dry. The real thing you have to have in your head, the mantra is slow over fast. Not fat over lean, slow dry on top of fast dry. You want what's underneath to dry fast and what's on top to dry slow. Otherwise you get cracking, okay? And so that's why I can't use liquid on top of this, because there's some stuff under here that still may not be cured. As you can see, it's dry to the touch, but it may not be cured. So Neo McGill is a slow dry medium. Now there's hundreds. Why don't I use linseed oil? Because Neo McGill is a little bit slower and a little bit shinier and a little bit more transparent. It seems like to me, and I may be all wet. It may just be in my head. If so, it's in my head. It seems to me that it's a little bit slower, a little bit more transparent and more glossy than linseed oil. So here I am. I'm going to do some warm stuff over here and some warm stuff here, warm stuff there. And again, I don't know if you can even see this. Let's do some warm in the lower part of the sky down there. Yeah, that looks okay. And then, what else? This is just a really an excuse. Doing these glazes is really just an excuse to tweak the colors of your painting ever so slightly. So I just did some permanent rose there. And of course, if I don't like it, now here I can take it off. Sorry, I just missed somebody's chat comment right there. Sorry about that. Bring back up again, and I'll try to catch it in time. I'm using my favorite brushes in the whole world. Not the best brushes, in fact, some of the worst. But these chip brushes. So see, I just warmed this up. Why? Because I can. because I can experiment. So again, I'm actually liking that. And again, I don't know if you can even see the difference. It's so subtle. Well, let's do some down here. Now, I've actually, as of now, I just did permanent rose all across the bottom tier of this painting. And I like it. Okay, now I think I'm going to come in here with some ultramarine, and add some blueness, some darkness and some blueness to this part of the canvas, to this part of the sidewalk down here. Okay. Now, yeah, I think more ultramarine. If I were to darken all of this, would that cause this to jump out more? Of course it will. But let me see if I like it. Let me do it and see if I like it. And again, forgive me, this is so subtle that I'm not sure, that my camera and your monitor can even pick up the subtle shift that I'm creating with this. Now, this corner right here definitely can be darker. So typically my go-to color for darkness is violet. Let's try that. That's pretty strong right there. Now let's spread it out and see if it looks good. So yeah, I will admit that most of my paintings, I do the traditional, almost boring, predictable vignetted corners, darkened corners. I'm turning the word vignette into an adjective. Vignetted, right? Darkened. Usually it looks good, and that does look good. More violet now up here. Let's just darken this. Whoa, that's too much. Good. I'm glad you get to see. So what happens if you do too much? You panic. Pick up a rag, or either panic or pick up a rag, and then paint with a rag. And I love painting with rags because you get exquisite control without. That's perfect now. Again, I don't know if you can see it way up there, but this used to be almost the same color all the way across, and now it goes darker. And yeah, painting works a little bit better with that going dark up there. Now, I think that by the same way, I'm going to go back to ultramarine. I'm almost out of Neo McGill. Trying to do the same thing up here. Again, pretty traditional, pretty predictable. Makes me a little bit nervous when something is this predictable. It's like, am I painting by formula? Am I falling into, just turn off brain and paint, turn off eyes, really, is the issue. Am I turning off my eyeballs and just painting by rote, by rule? And that's a real caution, a real danger. But the answer is, no, I'm not. Because why? Because my eyes are still engaged. I look at that now and say, yeah, better. Yep, better. Okay. Now, anything else I want darker? I just got kind of a medium dark, who knows what on my brushes right now. A very neutral, because I have brown and blue on my brushes, so it's very neutral gray. Maybe the top of this building just a little bit. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Clean these brushes on my drop cloth down here. And let's get out some fresh Neo McGilp. What a crazy name. Neo McGilp. M-E-G-I-L-P. I guess that means there was some old McGilp. Otherwise we couldn't possibly have new McGilp, could we? And let's go ahead and hit this, the highlight of the painting right in here. Whoops, that's too yellow. Let's add some, and now that's way too dark, but again, hang on. Okay, again, no panic. I know you can see that. And then come back with a rag. Did anybody tell you I love painting with a rag? Because you get exquisite degree of control without the downside of control, which is, you know, hyper control looking fastidious fussiness. There we go. Oh, there. Wow. That's nice. That is nice. Oh my goodness. Something just happened to my painting. Something just happened when I just did that right there. And I'm going to put those brushes down and pick up another one. Here's a general rule of thumb that I use. You don't have to use it, but when I do a glaze like this, I'm going to go ahead and I do want to cover the entire canvas. So at the moment, I'm using pure. I picked up a clean brush, pure Neo McGilp with no color at all. So again, just that's because I want, as much as possible, I want the same sheen. I want the same treatment. I don't want some parts of the painting with one thing on it and other part with something else on it. Does that make sense? So I just gonna go ahead and make sure that I got the whole canvas covered. I do now. Now, down here, back where I first started, I want to lighten this again just a little bit, including down here in the sky. Now, I certainly could stop right there. The painting is just a little bit rag here. The painting is just a tiny bit better than it was just a few minutes ago. That's and you see how little effort, if you will, how little work went into making it better. Wow. One of my expressions, one of the things I like to say and remind my viewers all the time is, ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. I just say it that way. It's a mnemonic device. Let me repeat myself. Ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. So what that's just saying is every color looks better with even a slight glaze, transparent glaze on top of it. Man, I wish everybody knew that rule. Man, I wish everybody knew that rule. There are a lot of painters that are better than I am who don't know that rule, and they're better than me, but they would be better than they are if they did know that rule. That's honestly what I think. I know that might sound arrogant, but I am so confident. It's not a matter of opinion, like, well, I think opaque colors are more interesting. No, it's a matter of physics. It's not a matter, it's a matter of, a transparent color is more complex. That doesn't mean there shouldn't be some. Okay, now, never mind, I'm going to stop there. Before I turned you guys on, I took an inventory. I did look at this painting carefully, and I said, there's a few little things here and there that I want to fix. I'm going to start with the big ones. The big things I want to fix. Again, I have to remember not to dip these, or drip, either one. Not to dip these brushes in liquid, because now that would be very dangerous. I'd be inviting some stuff. Okay, so I dipped my brush in the Neo McGilp, which you can't see, right? I'm off. There you go. Here's my Neo McGilp. Here's my liquid. Remember, on this painting, as soon as I'm finished with this painting, I'm gonna, if there's any of this, I'm gonna scrape it back into the bottle. But as long as I'm doing this particular painting, because this painting has, unlike all the others, has some slow dry underneath it. Got it? In fact, just for what it's worth, if you ever do get to like the point, you know, a week later, 2 weeks later, where you're doing your third, or Lord help you, your fourth glaze over, it's usually a good idea to move. That's why I've got the Neonagilt. It's usually a good idea to make sure that if you're doing a lot of glazing, make sure you go to some slow dry in the late stages. Okay, back to the painting. So there's several little things I want to do. And one is, it's bothering me that there's only one flag in this whole scene. And the one flag is getting a little too much attention. In fact, it used to get more attention. After my first day of painting, one of the first things that I came back on day 2, which was a couple days ago, one of the first things I did was I messed up the flag. I made it messy. And I'm probably going to do a little bit more messing around with that flag. But what I'm really going to do is add some other lampposts, in this case, and some other flags. They actually are in the photograph. Where's my photograph? Here it is. When you look at the street, here's a flag here, and there's 2 there, and way down the street you can see. I'm not going to try to do it near that many at all. But I'm going to add several because I think it will help the painting to hang together better. Now, what about this lamppost right here? You see, there's one there. I just added one there. I added just a hint of lampposts down here. No, I think a flag on this one would be too much. It should be right in the middle of this bright area. So I'm not going to do that. But let's do block in some flags really quickly. Messy flags, far away flags. So not too neat. I'm mixing up now a tiny bit of translucent red. Translucent, can see through it a little bit. But it's halfway. It's not transparent, but it's not fully opaque. So just hit where the flag's going to be, there, and over here, and let's add one there. A couple hints way down there. Okay. While I'm doing this, I'll tell you what else I'm going to do. I'm going to add either some headlights or some tail lights or both to the cars there. This character right here needs just a little bit of work. He's kind of dangerously prominent. He's a little bit too realistic. I may actually try to mess him up a little bit, but this knee needs to move forward. That's the problem when you get this couple right here, by the way, I'm quite happy with. They're very believable looking, but they're very abstract. And likewise, way over here, there's 2 more. Of course, they're way at the edge, so they're very abstract. Here's all the people in the painting. And these 2, and I'm quite happy with them. It looks like a man and a woman. His head is leaning, I'm sorry, which gives a sense of movement. Anyway, I'm quite happy with those. One's red, one's blue. That's a very typical trick of mine when you're doing people in paintings. A lot of mine end up blue and red and blue. Okay, so now I'm picking up some blue paint, and again, translucent blue, ultramarine, and phthalo, I guess, looks like, for the field, blue field on the flag. So just a hint of blue. I mean, you understand how easy it would be to overdo these flags with too much detail. So just the faintest hint of blue. None down there. Okay. Wipe out again. Now, picking up some white for some dirty white. My brushes I didn't clean them thoroughly, so they both have pigment in them, so I'm getting a nice dull gray. And just the faint hint of white. Right? Again, be so easy to overdo this. This flag is pretty far away, so it cannot have really any sharp edges in it. It has to be all diffuse. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll come back and hit them again. Just a tiny bit of accent. Same thing over here. Okay, pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with now with a lighter white. So not cleaning my brushes. Let's make sure it's warm white. I certainly don't want it a cold white. And again, just whoop, too much. There we go. I think that'll do. Trying to even, whoops, just a hint of something white in the blue area to represent stars. Good enough. Yes, it's hard to paint this soft. Easy to paint these tight and realistic. That would be very counterproductive. Now, wipe this off, and let's go back to red. So the way I paint flags is from the bottom up, from underpainting up. Start with a dirty red and a dirty white and a dirty blue. Then come back and do a cleaner white, cleaner red, and a cleaner blue. Brighter. And if it's a up close flag like this one, you can do that process. Several times, getting lighter and cleaner with each layer. But for these far away things, just a hint. Here's a funny quiz question. Which is easier to paint? A flag that's far away or a flag that's up close? The answer, I think, is a flag that's far away. Did I say that right? Which one is easier? Which one is harder? The answer, which one is harder? The answer is a flag that's far away. This goes along with my off-stated, whatever, opinion. Realism is easy. All you have to do is copy what you're looking at. It takes time. Don't get me wrong. It takes a long time. But you don't have to think in the same way that you do. The people that would disagree with that statement would be the people who do realism. Or hyper-realism. But I think the people who do good abstract realism would, most of them would agree with. Okay, that's way too much. There we go. Just trying to catch just the right balance between light and dark, red and white and blue. I think that's good enough. I'm very happy with that flag right there. And while I'm at it, let's bring this lamppost forward, the light in it just a little bit. Yeah. Same thing over here, just a hint. There's a light post there. I think that'll do. Hey, Nellie Visser. Good to see your name again. Okay, so I'm got several things I want to do here, and it's, by the way, it's always good to walk away. So I'm coming back, seeing this with a little bit fresh eyes after a 15-minute break. Always good thing. What I clearly see now, I wondered about at the time, is I can make this brighter and some of this brighter, and yeah, let's go ahead and do that right now, because that's one of the most obvious things. Again, I got to keep reminding myself, keep my brushes away from the liquid, because I've got slow dry. I mean, if you missed that earlier, I'm using a slow dry medium called Neo McGilt. It's got to be the worst name for, I don't care what it is. And there must have been some old-fashioned McGilt from the Middle Ages, maybe, or something. Okay, let's get back up to, as you know, the most important aspect of any painting is play of light. Play of light, play of light. And someone asked me earlier last week when I was doing this painting, where's the light coming from? Real simple, we're looking north. Sunlight, sunset. Light's coming from the far side of these buildings, right? From our left, coming in this way. So it's hitting this building more than anything else, this one a little bit, and hitting the fronts of these buildings. And part of the charm of the photograph here, I believe, is this, all of this secondary bounced reflection. And that's what I've tried to capture, and I'm pretty happy with it. But in my opinion, anytime you can push the light effects. Now, this is, by the way, this is the opposite of this is true in portraiture. In portraits, again, my good friend who doesn't know me at all, my good friend Mark Carter does a great job of pointing this out. He's got a video called "The Number One Mistake." I think it's called "Number One Mistake Made by Painters or Student Painters" or something like that, and he nails it, man. He says the number one, especially with regard to portraiture, the number one mistake painters make is exaggerated contrast. And I saw that, I watched that video a year ago, and it made it's like, you know, sometimes when you hear the truth, it's just like, it lights up your world. It's like, bing, 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 bing. That is so true, and that is a mistake I've been making. It was wonderful to catch that, because he is so correct. So anyway, so with portraiture, you don't want to do this, but at least for me, in landscape, you want to exaggerate the light effects. But hang on just a second. Let me show you. Here's the photograph, right? Now, I've tweaked it somewhat. Well, look at how light this is. I'm still only matching what's here. In fact, all of these buildings over here are darker in my painting than they are in the photograph. So I'm really not in danger of overdoing it at the moment and underdoing it. And of course, I don't want to paint the entire facade, the entire face of this building. In fact, I'm going to exaggerate the shadow effect right there, which I had not done earlier. Now, while I've got this color, it's again, I've seen people watch videos and like take notes, like, oh wait, what color did he say? No, don't learn to paint by formula. I was going to tell you, I'm using titanium white and Naples yellow, but that's not because I want you to go, it's not because I think you should write that down. I'll go, remember that titanium white? No. I'm just telling you just because it's interesting. But don't get into the trap of trying to paint by what I call paint by formula, paint by recipe. You always paint with your eyeballs. Always paint with your eyes.
Always.
Not by recipe, formula, and so on. And I'm probably contradicting myself. Sure, I have formulas. Yes, you know that very well. You watch me. I do indeed have formulas, but they are not the determining factor. They are not the final arbiter, and they're not the final judge of how I paint. The final judge is my two eyes, by which, of course, literally I'm in the visual center of my brain. Okay, so, yeah, this is looking nice. Now I'm going to come in here after putting down some fresh, wet paint on all of these buildings. I'm going to pick up my favorite tools, fan brush,
and you start getting to work.
and I'm going to smear all of that wet stuff again. See? Whoops, they look too much. They look too similar, those strokes. So there we go. Let's do some going straight out this way. Now I'm not done yet. Step 1, step 2, now step 3. Mixing up even a slightly lighter version of what I put down just a minute ago. And come back and apply real paint, what I call real paint. Again, what I did with this fan brush a minute ago could be called scumbling. It's a real simple version of scumbling. And it's great for achieving the color and the value that we want. It's great in this case for making it look like it's glowing, but it doesn't leave a particularly pleasant texture. So it's usually a good idea to come back, as I'm doing now, and apply what I call real paint. That is paint that you can see laying on top of the canvas. Brush strokes. Okay, now that I've brightened all of this, I realize now that I thought this area down here was pretty bright, but now that do you see how one thing impacts another? And by the way, that's why sometimes it's hard to tell. So how long do I have to go on this painting? There's a couple headlights, good enough. Let's smear those real quick and then come back. Same trick. Put the paint down, smear it, and then come back and put paint down and don't smear it. Got it? And what I'm doing right now with all this light effects is actually fairly representational. Let me show you the picture again. See this? Not exactly, but real bright down here. And yeah, so it looks like you're seeing, as you are, looks like you're seeing the sunlight slicing between between blocks, from one city block to the next, where there's a break in the buildings, and we're seeing that light slicing through that opening. That's exactly the feeling that I want you to have. Yeah, that's nice. At least I think it's nice. I'm always open to coming back yet again and changing it, but I think this will be my last session on this painting. Yeah?
It needs to be about an inch longer.
Oh no.
I found the perfect spot there to drill them and whatnot.
Oh no, are you serious? Even if you smush them down?
Oh, there's no way.
Okay. Rats.
Then may I have what it
Come over and get some real quick.
I guess, although
This
that
is
may put me in
pink.
the pool at the same time. I guess it'd be okay.
See, it's
Wouldn't be the end
pink.
of the world. Is there anything else we need?
I was just going to ask you some questions.
Hang on, Bang. My handyman Doug is here. Handymaning. Today. Handymaning. If I think of something, I'll give you. I can't think of anything.
Should I ask Nancy?
Candy
Yeah,
cane.
you could. If there's anything she needs from Lowe's.
All right.
Yep. Okay,
Be
thanks.
back as quick as you can.
Okay.
Purple?
I've noticed, especially when I looked at my photograph a
Can I
minute
have
ago,
purple?
over here there's some
Can I
some of this light hitting the fronts of these buildings between trees and lampposts and signs and so forth.
You have a lot of pictures. No, that's enough. 1 second. Can I give you a couple of more pictures? I need some gray around here.
Okay. 2 more things I want to do. One is now that I brightened all that, it turns out I can come and hit this secondary light, the primary light, secondary light on the front, on the face of this building, which I think is a very important secondary focal point or supporting actor in this composition. There's little question that this and this are the main thing we're going to look at. But close second, or maybe a clear second is this face. Of course, it's a very interesting, architecturally interesting. Okay, girls, a little bit quieter, please. Hey, Dolly. Thanks. Hard for a 3-year-old to quite grasp. A big part of what attracted me to this photograph, I just went through my collection of photographs on my computer for this one. This is a picture I took, of course, but I took it, I don't know when. It's obviously a wintertime scene because the trees are bare. But what attracted me, besides the light, secondary light, bouncing light, was the secondary light hitting this fascinating texture, a fascinating architecture on this building. So that's just coming back and hitting that one last time. This particular painting, let me point this out, has ended up more tight and realistic than most of my paintings. And that really happened. I started out pretty loose and flexible. You can go back and I don't know what daily art adventure it was, but it was about a week ago. I started out nice and loose, but it was actually during one session when you weren't watching, and I was sitting down, probably a little too comfortable physically, and I was just finishing the painting, working on the painting, and I just got, in my opinion, a little too fastidious, a little too careful, a little too comfortable, a little too slow, a little too plodding, and it's okay. I feel like this happens occasionally. This painting falls in a spectrum, my spectrum, from abstract to realistic, and this one is pretty far over toward the realistic end compared to my normal. And I just want to be aware of that. I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to say it's a bad painting. Some people, of course, when it comes to selling or buying, actually more people, a lot of people gravitate to the more representational, realistic paintings. So there'll be somebody out there, very likely, who will like this painting because it's a little more realistic than my normal work. Another thing I discovered is that these black hole windows, they're just a little too intense and dead looking. So I decided to come in here lighten them somewhat. Yeah, dark blue-gray, as if they're reflecting the sky behind us. Pretty standard. Not reflected in the photograph at all. In the photograph, there's stuff in the windows like curtains, but I like the blue better than the buff brown tan that's in the photograph. Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Yes.
A little happier looking. There's windows up here too in the attic.
No. A bigger one. No. A bigger one, like one of these.
No, let me mix up a dull or browner version of that for these windows. Again, I think they're just a little too, they're getting too much attention because of their very, very dark. Even though they are very dark in the photograph, I feel like they're just getting a little too much. That's better. That's better. Now, again, I want a little bit of green on this bush right there. There are a lot of bushes in our part of the country that retain leaves all winter long. And yeah, it's some kind of evergreen. Could be a holly. A lot of, holly bushes, all different kinds of holly. So I feel like this is a good excuse to introduce some green, because there's not a lot of green anywhere else in the painting. So just a little bit there. Having done that, can I squeeze some in over here? Yes, you bet. I can. And how about over here? Yes. Right? It's a general rule, not a hard and fast rule, like all the rules, they're general. But where you put a color somewhere, usually a good idea to include it somewhere else. There we go. Say, oh, here, this bush right here. That's,
Mom and Dad. Then give me the pink one.
very close to finish. Now a fairly light blue, because I want to do some touches up here in the sky. I'll explain why in a second. Let me mix up this color. Whoops. It must be quite a bit more violet than that. Okay, let's try this. Okay. Yes, the reason I want to do this blue is because late in this painting process, I came in with some dark, transparent paint on brushes, and I scribbled really fast, really quickly. I scribbled these branches in place. Nothing wrong with that, except of course it violates a rule. One of the rules is darks first, lights last. We don't like to see dark paint on top of light paint. And this, of course, is dark paint on top of light. There are times, of course, where you have to do dark on top of light. But then whenever possible, you come back, as I'm doing right now, and rectify the situation by just adding a few bits of light. Okay, girls. Thank you. And putting some light blue next to, adjacent, close to, in proximity to the dark lines. Not covering them up, but just putting next to them. And then the last thing I've put on that then is a light, and all is well. And you don't have to cover the whole thing, just a little bit here and a little bit there. Then same thing over here. In fact, right here there's a couple branches on this tree, against this building. Same thing. Just want to come in and do light bits, and then all is well. Does that make sense? Darks first, lights last. That means anytime you put dark down on the canvas. If possible, which here, clearly in this case it is possible, you come back and add a little bit of light next to, adjacent to, in close proximity to the dark that you put down, and then all is well. Fix a little bit of the drawing on this lamp right here. I'm just about done with I had sort of a punch list. Do you know that expression? Like builders use, home builders use, you know, somebody goes through late in the process and just puts a little sticker dot next to everything that needs fixing, and that's sort of what I had with this painting. Just a number of little things here and there, and I've just about got them all. One I mentioned earlier was to make this knee come out just a little bit further. I think that'll do it, and maybe this foot come down a little bit. Certainly want to keep him quite abstract. In fact, if I could do something to make him even more abstract, that would be good. So maybe just mess up some of the lines that are here. Yeah. That was a mistake. Way too bright. Whoops, sorry, I got off your field of vision. Sorry about that. I put a light stroke of paint on his arm, and it was way too light. But there. That turned out just great. Some of these railings that I've got going up the stairs are a little bit too abstract. If I could come in here. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, there. Okay, I think I'm done. Tiny bit of red. Tiny bit of red. Here's where you get in trouble, right? I think I'm done. Oh, just one more thing. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, I overdid it. Dang. Right? And even knowing the danger even that doesn't keep you from sometimes making the mistake. Good enough. I'm going to call it quits. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm going to take a little break right here. I need to run downstairs and do some tasks around the house. But I'm going to keep this broadcast going because I want to come back later on this afternoon. I would guess an hour from now. Sorry to leave you hanging, but I hope to be back in about 1 hour. And I'm done with this one. Yahoo! And let me show you what's happening next. The next painting with the least amount of work needed is this one. So when we come back, I'll be working on this. Good enough? Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Please comment, share, and link, and I'll Hey gang, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again today. So I'm in my studio today finishing 4 paintings that I started. All of them were plein air except this one. This one I actually did here in my studio, and I just touched that one up a little while ago. I like it quite a bit, although I've actually, after I put it down, I thought, I wonder if I should have put some clouds in that sky. I'll think about it. Anyway, I'm on to my next one. I did this one on plein air last week. You can find it. I don't know what adventure number it is, but I had a good time. Just jumped in my van and headed into the country. Didn't have to go very far before 10 miles maybe, before I came upon this wonderful North Carolina farm scene. Now, There's not an awful lot. I've already glazed it one time, I think. I don't know. I just say that because it looks like it. Normally, you've heard me say when I attack a painting on a second day, I glaze the whole thing. But I don't want this in here any warmer than it already is. It's like, it'll start looking yellow. I don't want that any warmer. This is the right temperature. This part up here is a little bit greenish to me. So I do have some liquid on these brushes, and if I anti-green it a little bit, now real anti-green of course would be red, and that's an option. I can always do red, I can always wipe it off. But I've got violet on my brushes, evidently not enough violet. Let's be a little bit braver here and try some permanent rose. So I really am. I do honestly use this language inside my head when I've got something like this happening. To say I want to put red in this sky is almost too jarring mentally. It's like, oh, whoa, red, oh, red. Even though intellectually I know that's exactly what I'm doing, but I don't call it that. And with my students, I certainly don't call it that. I call it, let's anti-green it. Now that I can handle. Now, I happen to know that anti-green means red, right? Just other side of the color wheel, but I really am not so much thinking, I'm going to red this sky, as I am thinking, I think I'd like that a little less green. So there you go. I put an awful lot more red on there than I thought I could or should or would. But doggone if I don't kind of like it. Do you see what I mean? Now, I don't care much for it when it's getting over here into this white cloud. So let me pick up a brush, just put some plain liquid on it and use, normally I would do this with a rag, but it's a small area, so I'm doing it with a clean brush. Now, there's some blue up here that I like, and I want to bring this back more toward the blue, so and same thing here. There we go. Isn't that fun? Yeah, so it's definitely a weather sky, definitely a threatening cloud sky, which it was the day I was there. Now, since I've got this anti-green on my brushes, I wonder what it would look like. This roof is a little bit green too. I wonder how it would look if I made this roof a little less green. For that matter, how would it look if I made this grass? I'm anti-greening a whole bunch of stuff, aren't I? I'm looking for a unified, I like all of that except on this road, on this path here. I didn't like that red, so I'm lifting that off. Let me look at that now. Yeah? Now how about, okay, how about over here? Would I like this house to be a little redder? Eh? Eh? No? I don't think so. Let's take that part off. There you go, see? Oh. Now what would happen if I came in here in this distant sky and did just a little bit, not that much, I'm going to take that off. Hang on. So again, I've got some violet and some permanent rose on my brush. Do I like that? Nope, I don't. There you go. See? Nope, I don't. I like it clean better. So there we go. What fun, huh? You can just experiment. Put it on, take it off. Okay, let's experiment. How would I like this shed? It's yellowish right now. Would it look better with a little dirt on it? Yeah, I like that. I like that. Just a little dirtier, redder. just really getting carried away with this red stuff, aren't I? That's okay. Okay, now, that's a lot more than I thought I was going to do, but it looks better. It's a better painting. Boy, that was easy. Now, there's just a few details. One, as I never finished this roof, I've already mixed up a color here before you were looking. I've already mixed up a color gray, very neutral slate gray, to match this. And I want to show you, this is very typical of what I do in this situation. First of all, a little bit too much pencil line up there, so I'll diminish that somewhat. Here's the main thing. So I've mixed up the right color gray. It matches what's already here. Someone who's not familiar with my approach, my technique, would take this paint and paint the roof. Dang, paint the roof. It's the right color. No, 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 no. This is all gorgeous, beautiful interplay. Now, this red stripe stroke is too much. So that's one of the things I'm going to clean up. But you'll notice that I tend to paint around the boundaries of things to give definition, to give a little bit of pop, a little bit of definition. Does that make sense? Very typical. So I've just applied this gray right around there, and this is all perfect the way it is. Now the only thing that's not perfect is that red stroke. So I'm going to come in here, and again, this is very important if you want, again, if you want to be influenced by the way that I paint. And I think this would have bearing on a lot of approaches to painting, not just mine. I am going to, this would be the tendency. This would be the immature beginner tendency. I don't like that red mark. So I'm going to eliminate it. Doggone it, I'm so stupid. Why did I put that mark there? No, 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 no. I say this often. I'm not smart enough to paint good. And I mean this quite literally. I'm not smart enough to paint really good. But I am smart enough. And I know English majors, hush. I know it's really well, but then it doesn't, the couplet doesn't work. So I'm not smart enough to paint good, but I am smart enough to recognize some good painting when I see it. Does that make sense? So look, I've just pushed that red stroke way back, but you can still see little bits of it peeking through. Now I just have to decide how much. And that the fact that that red stroke was there is going to make this a better painting. It already has made it a better painting. I'm still mixing colors here a little bit to match what's already here. This purple area, I like it, but it's a little bit too purple, so I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the red, I'm going to do with this purple. Not get mad and all upset and wipe it out. No, 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 no. Just push it back a little bit. Okay, and I'm not quite, there's a pencil line up here that is just at the wrong angle. So I am basically, there's a little bit still showing, but I'm eliminating most of that. Now I have this delightful little texture on the roof. It's not getting too much attention, I don't think, although I am going to push this red back just a little bit more. I hope you see what I mean when I say I'm not smart enough to paint good, but I'm good enough to see, I'm smart enough to see some good paint. In other words, I'm using that red that is there, but I'm just dialing it down to just the right amount. And same thing with the purple here, dial it down. Let me go around the corner real quick and finish this over here real quickly. Of course, I'm not nearly as fussy about the paintings on the edge. I want it to be painted, but I don't get all real fussy about those edges. Okay, now let me show you a cool trick. And those of you who perhaps don't paint like me, but you do use the toned canvas trick, let me show you. Every time I see a student, virtually every time I've seen a student do the toned canvas, and the most traditional for a landscape, the most traditional stoned canvas, the most traditional toned canvas is vermilion, red, right? Any kind of red, Chinese red. And most students, they learned this somewhere, they saw it, they took a class and the teacher told them to do it this way, which is good. I love toned canvases. Most students don't leave enough of the undertone showing. Number one. Number two, very few students were taught when they are using this wonderful trick called a tone canvas. In a sense, you could say that my painting technique, you could call it a glorified toned canvas. It's like my underpainting is kind of like a toned canvas except on steroids, cranked way up. So it's not just one tone, it's a whole bunch. But here's another trick that I'm going to show you. Hello, thank you, Mr. Superb. You can still see little, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see little bits of red. Here, I'm going to move you. Forgive me for the earthquake here for just a minute. Let's get you looking right there. There we go, nice and close. Okay, I want to show you a trick. I am mixing up on my palette now a dark, dirty red color. I'm trying to match that red right there. Here's what most students who use the tone canvas, they haven't been taught this, is after you're finished, after all is done, some of the last strokes that you do, you want to match, that's too bright. Okay, so hang on. I need to get that much darker. I misestimated, calculated wrong how dark that red is. So let me try it again. I want to match that kind of, and I'm going to put some marks on top of the gray. Why? This is not in order to achieve realism. This is in fact to make our eyes go, woohoo, that's wonderful, I love it. That's our eyes talking. Oh, that is so cool. Okay, eyes don't really have words. Our eyes go, whoa. Wow's not really a word, it's just a sound. Okay, now I'm fixing my mess right here. That first red that I put on was too intense, so I'm coming back and covering up. Okay, so that stroke I'm willing to leave. This one is on top. This one is on top. There we go. And our eyes get a kick, really get a kick, little aesthetic buzz out of being confused by what's on top of what. Coming back with a lighter gray here just for a little accent here and there. Okay, that's a lot. I would have done that much more quickly if I hadn't been trying to teach. But there you go. That's my roof. I like it. I'm going to back you up now. And that little trick of coming, whatever is your underpainting color, come back with that on top. I'm going to do that in another painting here this afternoon as well. Now, the main thing, I think, two things need some work. One is this little farmer character right here. He's okay, but he needs some highlights on him. And the other thing is these trees. Let's tackle the trees first. And hang on just a second. Gamsol is evidently the industry standard for non-toxic brush cleaner stuff. I don't recommend doing what I do. I'm in the habit of cleaning my brushes a lot. Some people don't, and I wish I could get into that habit, but maybe I'm an old dog, I don't know. You can't get a hold of that new trick. Okay, trees. Let's talk about trees. The best way to paint trees is in layers. Layers and layers and layers. I've said before, that word is hard to say fast. The English word for trap is layer, L-A-I-R. He or she laid a layer. So when you say layer, 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 it sounds like you're saying the word trap 3 times fast. But I'm not. I'm saying layer. Okay. I've just mixed up a dark, dirty green. It has a little bit, tiny bit of white or something in it. So it's not completely transparent. It's slightly, and it's too dark. It is slightly translucent, like a sheet of rice paper, translucent, right? Like a sheet of Yupo. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and do just a few leaves. The best way to do trees is in layers. You don't try to render it all at once. You render it bit by bit, layer by layer, piece by piece. Generally speaking, the more realistic you want the trees, the more back and forth you do between. Normally the tree is darker than the sky, right? So if I can just say dark and light, dark is the tree, light is the sky. How do you paint a tree? Dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light. Does that make sense? Now that many layers, you could end up with with each layer gets a little bit more realistic. If you really did that many layers, you'd end up with a very realistic, in my opinion, if each layer was slightly more realistic than the one before. Now, there's some delightful, see this red right here? That's part of that same original stroke that I put on the canvas that went like this. There's a little bit of it showing here, here, and here. Just went like that. And I'm not smart enough. I don't scratch my head at the beginning and say, I bet you it's going to look really cool if I had a little bit of pink, violet, dark red showing in the trees. I don't think that at all. I say this painting is going to be, at the time I said it's going to, I think it'll look good if it's got some wild, crazy, dark red marks in it. So there you go. The same, not the same stroke, but the same color going this way is what accounts for this mark right here. And again, I'm not smart enough to say, I bet that shed, I didn't know there was going to be a shed there. In fact, I see some of that pink, red here. I didn't know there was going to be a shed there. I just knew that the painting would probably look good if it had some of this craziness underneath it. So I create an environment in which craziness can happen. And the craziness always ends up serving me well. Anything that doesn't serve me well, any marks that I don't like, well, of course, I cover them up in the final edit. So let's do some more dark trees. Now, you've heard me say, and this is not a Dan Nelsonism, this is straight up traditional art professorism. This is not a Dan Nelsonism. Darks first, lights last. Okay, that's the formula. Of course it can be the rule. Of course it can be broken. Every rule can be broken if you know what you're doing. But if you don't know the rule, you're probably just screwing up. I know you've heard me say that so many times, but there might be somebody new listening. So I say it again. Of course, every rule can be broken, but you better know what the rules are. If you don't think there are any, you're probably just screwing up. And even some good art teachers like to say there aren't any rules. They're selling something. They're trying to make a point. The point they're trying to make is that every rule can be broken, which I grant. Now, some of them really don't think there are any rules, and their paintings prove it because their paintings are bad. But most art teachers are not bad. They're just... But I think I'm speaking more technically correct. There are guidelines and rules. They can be broken. Likewise, there's some purple and more of that red. There's a big stripe of red that goes, I can still barely see it here, and I love it. I'm not going to cover it up. Are you kidding? That would be a travesty. Travesty. What a word. Okay. That's probably good enough. Now, so darks first, lights last. What I just did was dark, and it was a little bit of a cheat because see, here's a rule. Here's the rule. Get dark with transparent, light with opaques. That's the rule. But every once in a while, the rule can be broken. Just then, I got dark with translucent, not transparent. Why? Because if I had done transparent, I feel it would have been a little too stark. I wanted it to be subtle and lay back in the atmosphere. By the way, here's another, just a guideline to keep in mind. Opaque paint conveys, connotes, suggests, indicates atmosphere, cloud, air, smoke. That makes sense. Really makes sense if you just think about it. Scumbling some light, opaque paint on your sky, for instance, makes it look like fog. Okay, so transparent paint looks like a clear sky. Opaque paint looks like cloudy sky. And I just, a few minutes ago, I put translucent green on these trees. Why? Because I want them to look like there's atmosphere, there's cloud. It's a hazy day. It's not a bright, sunshiny, wee, happy, Sunnyvale trip to the farm. Happy trip to Sunnyvale Farm. That's not what this is, right? I'm making that up, of course. This is not that. This is moody day, dramatic day at Cloudyvale Farm. Cloudyvale Farm. Okay, so now I'm coming back with some light, and of course you get light with opaques. You cannot get light with transparent colors. So you won't make that mistake. Anytime you want to get light, you're doing it with either opaque or translucent paints. So one of the rules is you get dark with transparent. No, I already said that one. Let's do this. Here's one of the rules. Darks first, lights last. And that's not a Dan Nelsonism. That's not a Dan Nelson rule. That's a traditional old Rembrandt rule. But so as I put dark in the trees, that meant sort of by definition, that means I'm not finished with the trees yet. That is correct. So now I'm coming back with the light color and just hitting a few more sky holes. Erroneously named, as I always say, wrongly named sky holes. Because it's not all, today it's sky. Right now I'm painting sky behind the trees. But many times it's buildings or mountains or other trees behind the trees. Anyway, I won't rant and rave on that right now because I've done it enough already. I think I'm happy with the trees now, just a little bit. Now let's tackle this face of the wall of this house here. First of all, at the moment, I like it all right. Obviously, it's a white painted house. It could be gray, but it's a light colored house in shade, right? How do you paint white in shade? Well, one of the best ways to do it is I've done it here, which is layers and layers of transparent color, translucent color. So that's what I've got. At the moment, however, I've got sort of a mistake. It's not a bad mistake, but I can make the wall better. I can make this wall of the house better because it's almost the same color. Oh, look, it's slightly lighter down here than up here. That I'm going to make the bottom of the wall here a little bit lighter than the top. Does that make sense? So here you go. Why shouldn't they be called sky holes? Because here's bushes down here, and I'm going to put quote-unquote sky holes in the bush, but it's not sky, it's house. So down here, it's called a house hole. Which is absurd, of course. It should not be called a house hole. It should be called a bush hole. A hole in the bush. Anyway, sorry, I know I'm being very, what's the word? Weird. That's the word. Nelson, you're being weird, that's all. Happiness is knowing when you're being weird. It's when I don't know I'm being weird that I'm in trouble. I want to give the suggestion of clapboard or clapboard, right, or siding without going crazy. Now I am going to come in here living dangerously here, and do just a few marks with a pencil. How many? I don't know. Just so enough that looks cool. I just think it might look kind of neat. There, I think that's all right. And of course, you can always come in and diminish some of those lines a little bit if I think it's too much. There. There's still this one stroke down here that I don't like very much. I'm going to diminish it just a little bit more. It had a bulbous feeling, sort of a blob feeling to that one stroke that I applied, but it's easy fix. There, all better. Now, let's do a little bit around the windows with a slightly lighter color. So it looks like trim. Maybe the trim around the window is slightly lighter than the house itself. If that's the case, then obviously well, let's do this up here too. Yeah. Oops. I don't like this rounded corner right here. I do not want that round. Okay, I think that's enough. A little bit of this porch railing, part of it, I don't want it all the same color. Let's do part of it just a little bit lighter, make some of it stand out. Again, the railing on a porch, the pickets, the spindles, classic example of, in any repeated motif, repeated pattern, you don't want to render that thing, that repeated pattern, the same way. You want it to render it using several different techniques. Okay? Why? Because the essence of good painting is making interesting marks, comma, breath, and the essence of interesting marks is variety. Oh, I know, I thought about something. Glad I remembered it. Now, it turns out this porch did not have what I'm about to do. But as I was standing there, I thought, man, this would look better if there was lattice work. You know what I'm talking about? You'll know in a minute when you see it. It's just so traditional in an old country in America. There'd be this lattice work. Pardon me a moment. Yes. Do you need something?
Right here,
I am.
you get a chance to touch base.
Okay. Okay. Want me to come down in a few minutes?
Just when it's convenient.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there we go. Just a little, and I can accent again. I like the pencils. Sure, they make it a little bit more realistic, but more than that, I like the scratchiness combined with I call it smooshy paint versus scratchy pencil. I just like the scratchiness of it. Let me do just a little bit more here. I'm getting more involved in this lattice work than I would have thought, but I'm mixing up a dark black, one of my favorite colors, and let's do some of the holes in the lattice. Yeah. I'll mess it up a little bit. Whoops. That last stripe, that last scrape was not a good one. There we go, that'll do. almost finished here. I'm going to do just a little bit of green highlights on these bushes. Very dark, very dull. I don't want it to jump out much at all, but just I want the bushes to look as though they're green, sitting here in the shade in the dark side of this house. So I'm mixing up a number of blues, and I don't think I have. I would like some yellow ochre right now, but I don't have it, so I'll use some Indian yellow. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's all right. Subtle. Our eyes really get a kick out of subtlety. Our tendency is to overdo it, to exaggerate contrast. If we see a little contrast in the subject matter, we tend to crank it up. And no, we don't need to crank it up. Our eyes are fully capable of seeing subtlety, and our eyes enjoy it more than being knocked off your horse by exaggeration. While I've got this green on my brush, maybe I can find an excuse to do it somewhere else. There we go. Yeah. And yeah, a little bit here in the dark side of this shed, a little bit of green. One other thought that I have is just a little bit of definition right along here where there's, it's grass, at least some kind of grass. May not be beautiful lawn, but some kind of grass that comes up to the bottom of the bushes, right? Let me try this and then see if I like it. I can certainly wipe this off if I change my mind. Here's a nice gnarly old brush. Sometimes these old brushes that are like quote unquote no good, some of them you should hang on to because they make marks that are unique. You couldn't do this with a good brush. What I'm doing right now, I'm using using the gnarliness of that brush. I don't even know where it came from. How long has it been hiding in my jar there? Okay, slightly lighter green. You know this rule. Whenever you put one color down, you come back and mix up a slightly lighter version of that and do just little bits of it here and there on top of what you just did. Especially when it comes to foliage. That's especially helpful. It's almost too bright. I'm going to let that go. Okay. Now, let's tackle the farmer, and then maybe I'll be done. This is going to be delicate. Because it'd be so easy to overdo this. It'd be so easy. First of all, let's make some dark, dirty blue. Not dark, mid-tone. Mid-tone dark, dirty blue. Okay? Let's say he's wearing coveralls. What else would a farmer be wearing? Just make some marks. Let the paint do stuff that you don't exactly plan on. You see me twisting my brush there to, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. One suspender, one strap. Yeah. Okay, now I'm just going to add a little bit of white to that color. And let's come back and again, sun's coming from this way, right? So just a little bit. Whoa. Let's go see if I can zoom you in. Again, forgive me. I'll take you on a wild ride here. Let you try to get as close as possible so you can see what I'm doing here. Hang on. There we go. Okay. I think this brush. And by the way, here, I'm using my left hand because that way the point of the brush is toward the light. See, if I do it this way, I'm using the heel of the brush. And so this is one of those times when it really helps to be able to paint with two hands. Because I want the brightest blue to be over here. Right? And just a hint. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Now, okay, because there's a dark line coming in here at about equal with his knee, and I've left the dark patch in his leg, I'm gonna cut that off so it doesn't look like that line's going into his leg. Anything else? I'm thinking, and I could leave it just like that. Would he have his sleeves rolled up? At the moment, it looks like he's got long sleeves. Yeah, no. In North Carolina, 80% of the year is tends to be more warm than cold. So I'm gonna let's give him bare arms. So I'm mixing up some kind of very dull flesh tone, but with white, of course. White, oxide red. Oxide, don't be confused by the name. Oxide red is brown, like burnt sienna. Okay, let's see if this is the right color. And first of all, this arm over here looks to me like it'd be easier to render. Do you see how, man, I hope you can even see that. I'm letting the, let me show you the kind of brush I'm not using to do this. Let's just make the point. Okay? Here's the kind of brush I'm not using. A nice sable, I'll use the butt end of it. Yeah. Okay, I'm using a bristle brush that has a little bit of a mind of its own, which is what you want. Let the brush kind of knock you around instead of you bossing it around. He's already got a bit of a face there. I feel like his neck's a little dark. There we go. Oh, that was a nice accident. Yeah, then just a tiny bit of a light colored shirt. I don't know what color. I'm just using the brush that's still got mess on it. Let's see if I can get just a touch of light up here in his shoulder. Yeah, and here in his neck. Yeah, there we go. He's wearing a t-shirt underneath. I didn't realize that till just now. It's like, of course, that's what he's wearing. He's wearing a t-shirt underneath his coveralls. Yeah. His hat, I'm going to leave it just the way it is. Just the underpainting. Now, I'm going to do one more thing to this guy before I leave it, and that is I'm going to negative paint him. So I want to mix up this color, whatever that color is, and it's pretty hard to say what it is because it's a composite. It's a result of a whole bunch of layers of underpainting, right? So it's I've got some. Wait a minute, look at my palette here. This is what happens. I got a little bit too much permanent rose on my brush one time, and then I just couldn't get rid of it. Permanent rose, like phthalo blue, those are two staining colors, and they just keep going and going and going. And it's like, oh, come on. So now I got my brushes full of way too pink, way too pink. Whoops, I almost, I'm sorry, I had you aimed the wrong, I had you aimed at my granddaughter's masterpieces there. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, back up at the subject matter now. I don't know if this is the right color or not, but it's not opaque enough. I'm sure of that. Do you see this dark edge on the back side of this arm? It's just a little bit too much of a good thing. So I'm going to diminish that outline. I'm going to leave some of it. I'm not wiping it out, but just diminish. And then the back part of his t-shirt sleeve, just a little bit too much. Again, too much of a good thing. So diminishing that a little bit. Now, I was thinking at one point that he was carrying a bucket. You can still see part of it here. Yeah, I think that I was considering, well, I could also take a palette knife and give him a handle, like a shovel hoe handle or something. But no, I think I could do both, of course. But I think I want to aim toward the more like the bucket, just catching a little bit of sunlight. So let's see if I can get a neutral gray. And since I had pink on my brushes, I'm picking up a dark green, right? Pink, dirty pink plus dirty green equals neutral. I'm aiming for neutral gray. Add some blue to that, and then some titanium white. Here we go. There we go. I've already, without cleaning my brushes, so to speak, I've just used the paint that was already on them. Does that make sense? Use the paint, the colors that were already on them too. Just doing complementary to get neutral gray. Okay. Now, again, this would be so easy to overdo it and try to do the first stroke of the bucket with one stroke. Yep. There we go. That's good enough. Now add some white to that. Titanium white. By the way, I don't know, I'm sure there are some fantastic artists somewhere who swear by zinc white. You should pay attention to those people. Any fantastic artist who swears by anything, pay attention. But it took me a long time. So what are you supposed to buy? What are you supposed to buy? Zinc or titanium? Okay, here's my little mnemonic device. I don't buy zinc. Why? Because zinc is weak. Zinc is weak. And titanium is titanium. So if you want to waste your money, buy zinc. If you want to get your money's worth, buy titanium. Kind of superhero color. Superhero paint. Titanium. Got it? Okay. There. Are you with me? See, now part of me wants to straighten out that stroke. And I guess I'm going to do it. There, I did straighten it out. Anything else? A little more on that shoulder. Yep. It's almost too much. It is too much, so there we go. There we go. There. That's a good trick, by the way. When you find you've overdone, especially a figure, and you scratch through him with your finger or a dry brush, or, as I did in that case, with the handle of my brush, and that was good enough. There's an errant dark mark. Okay. I think that painting's ready to sign. I think it's ready to sign. Oh, no. The road that I messed up here a little bit. I'm going to go back and add that. And here's crazy, and I'm doing this a little more and more. It's kind of crazy. Coming back at the very end with pencils. That is just nuts. Somebody save me. I'm getting worse at this using pencil stuff. Rather than doing less and less of it, I find myself doing actually more and more of it. A little bit scary thought, except I like it. Again, anytime you do too much pencil, it's an easy fix, man. Easy fix. You just come back and paint over it, and but just the right amount, right? Yeah. Okay, anything else? Yeah, I see the corner of this roof right here. I feel like this front corner could be a little bit brighter. You could drive yourself nuts doing stuff like this, couldn't you? Never finishing. Don't worry. I am going to finish. Oh, here's another one. I kept thinking about this. I think I'm going to put a sill, maybe in a frame. Not like that, I'm going to paint the edge of this white. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. It's not in the real barn, in real life, is not trimmed in white, but I feel like it ought to be trimmed in white. Yeah, that's an improvement right there. Let's do just a little bit more of that. I'm mixing up a very, very, might still be too light, even that. So, you know, this barn did not have white trim, but the most traditional of white barns, red barns, would have white trim. I think it looks better. I do indeed. Now I'm getting carried away with all this trim stuff. I'm actually liking it, so I'm not complaining. Now, here we go with the pencil again. Do not do this. I only say that because it's so unconventional. It's so like, no, you don't use pencils. What are you doing? Put that pencil on. That's part of me, is part of my voice is saying that. Except I like it. Okay. He says okay, and then he keeps making marks. Okay. Let's sign this thing, and I often, of course, I don't often let you watch me. Some of you, if you've heard my rant and rave about signatures, then you can go get yourself a lemonade right now, because I'm about to do my signature, and while I'm doing it, I might as well give you my 2 cents worth on, which is about $2 worth actually, on doing signatures. Okay, so if you've heard this before, I give you permission to leave. Sorry about that earthquake. Now let's talk about signatures. And I am a signature. I think there's a right way to do it, and so many people don't do it right. Okay, what color? You pick some highlight color that's already in the painting. Could be red, of course, and if red signature is kind of nice. I feel like in this case it'd be just a little bit contrived, a little bit too much of a good thing. So I'm going to go with like the color of the sky up here. That's very safe to go with a highlight color from the sky. Okay. Next question is, where do you put the signature? The answer, well, the wrong answer is down here, and I see this done by people. They're saying, "Forgive me for living. I shouldn't be alive. I shouldn't be taking up good air that other people can use. I'm such a worm, and forgive me for signing this." Horrible, horrible. A clear sign of terrible inferiority issues. Do not sign down. You sign comfortably in the corner, as if you were a graphic designer. Just pretend you're a graphic designer. Okay? I'm changing my mind here slightly, by the way. I decided not to go with this. I'm going to go with this, the chartreuse color here. Okay, so lime green chartreuse. There you go. So I feel like the right spot is, of course, not up in this bush. No, and most of the time it's the lower right-hand corner. Sometimes it has to be the lower left, simply because the lower right's too busy. But this is not the case here today. Now, what brush? Don't waste your time or your money doing anything else. Rush out right now and buy a Winsor Newton Series 7. This is a miniature #1. Perfect. Kind of an expensive brush for the size, but well worth it. Buy it, take good care of it. It'll last forever. Okay, and how do you do your signature? By the way, what's the most famous signature in America, do you think? I have an opinion. The most famous, it could be John Hancock. I'd call it signature in America. And what you see on Walt Disney is a graphic modification of his authentic signature. So that's what you should do. However you sign your check, which is probably very illegible if you're like me, but tidy it up a little bit and then graphicalize it. Straighten it out, neat, tidy it up a little bit. And you always sign it the same way, okay? And I heard some crazy person sometime, somewhere, that said, one of his teachers said, you should always do your signature with one stroke. That is just nuts. Where do people come up with this stuff? Someone else said, oh, you should always do your signature in red. Again, nuts. Where do people come up with this stuff? That's just, I don't know, that's just some kind of art school craziness. You got a hold of some bad stuff if a teacher told you that. I told you I had opinions. I told you I was a snob, so I warned you. Next, what about initials? No, 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 no. Initials are Bush League. Guarantee when you see somebody who's signed their painting with their initials, they are undeveloped, immature, developing, bad. Do not sign with your initials. And I'm sorry, I have some dear friends who do sign their paintings with their initials, and they should stop yesterday. Okay. So as you can see, it's a pride. I do my signature so neatly because I use a Winsor Newton Series 7. That's a huge part of it. You can get one online. Get 3. Miniature is fine. That just means the bristles are slightly shorter than the regular. Do your signature the same way every time. Now, all of this, of course, comes from a person who's actually making a living as an artist. So if you're not making a living, if it's just your hobby and you're just having fun, you can sign any way you want to. But for goodness sakes, if you're trying to sell paintings, that is my trademark. That's on my business card. It's on all my marketing. In fact, I've several times in my career, it happened not too many months ago, I was doing a fundraiser painting for a bank, nice big fancy bank building. Went in, they had some pretty nice paintings on the walls, and I wanted to see who did them. And I could have slapped the artist because he is, I know I'm getting violent here. I'm not only a snob, I'm a violent snob. That's the worst kind. He was one of those that did what I call the not the Mask of Zorro, the Mark of Zorro mindset. I am so famous, all I need to do is go and people will recognize my mark. Arrogant, 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 and dumb. So I couldn't read his signature at all. It was completely illegible. Paintings were nice. He is not so filthy stinking famous that I didn't recognize his Mark of Zorro. He went with that Mark of Zorro approach. And again, if it's his hobby, he's welcome to do that. But it's not. It's whoever did that. I have a strong hunch which gallery it came from. And again, but I have no idea who it was. Because I'd like to know who did this any painting, any good painting that I like. I want to know who did it. So at least there's no question who did this painting. Some guy, some bloke named Dan Nelson. It's easy to read. Okay, so there you go. That's my rant and rave, my ranting and raving about how to do a signature. Now, I'm doing 4 paintings today. I've just finished the second one. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a separate broadcast. So I am going to end this broadcast here and take a little break and then come back and tweak. At the end of the day, I want to have tweaked, finished 4 paintings. That's a good day's work. Each one of them is like this is 90 to 95 to 99% done. But isn't this nice? I like what's happened here in just the last little bit. I think I changed it from a B+ painting to an A painting. And boy, that is, in my book, that's huge. It was a okay painting. Now it's better than okay, I think. Good enough? Okay, thanks for watching. Please share, subscribe, leave a comment. And if you want to join me, I'll be starting another broadcast in just when's he going to put that stupid pencil down? Somebody get up there and slap that boy. Antiques Roadshow 2075. Bzing, yeah, Dan Nelson, he was a half-baked artist that worked in the early 21st century, had this irritating habit of using pencils in his oil paintings. This painting would be worth $2 million, but because of the pencil work in it, it's worth $177. Bazing! Okay, have I driven you crazy enough? Thanks for watching. Wait, one more mark. I promise, just one. A little bit more light. Oh, perfect. Now it's perfect.